All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm back on here recording live from my favorite outdoor recording space. So we're getting places a little bit, and today I'm going to talk about podcasting a little bit. It's part of a series that I'm creating that's called Tid Bits, and so these clips are going to be short and sweet compared to my other lengthier ones, and the purpose of that is so that I'm getting information out there. I'm also testing interest in those details, and at the same time it helped me to understand what type of content people are looking for, helps me to understand where should my focus be, where should I be improving my own levels of expertise, and provide more value and content to the podcast, as well as additional learning experiences just for myself, and because it's fun and I like creating content, and that's just one more way that I can do it. So the topic of podcasting in this Tid Bits episode, we're going to talk about posting, steady posting, learning, analyzing, enjoying, repeating. Sounds like a lot of steps, but a lot of these things I've spoken out about before. So when you're podcasting, a lot of people do it just for hobbies, just to share info. Some people do it to, for their own branding or company, for their own, if they have say a professional office of some sort, maybe it gets people in the door, or some people monetize and choose affiliate programs and get sponsorships and things like this, for financial reasons. But knowing the reason why you're doing this, not just that kind of surface level, I need more visitors coming to my building, or I need, which it's not an unimportant thing, but there are other important things too, for a creative outlet, or maybe there's something that maybe it helps you process things in a certain way. I've noticed that about a different type of podcast that I use, that when I talk, because it's not like I'm talking necessarily to a specific buddy right next to me or anything. I'm talking into a microphone. I'm generally solo by myself, unless somebody's next to my car overhearing everything that I'm saying, which isn't common. But yeah, so steady posting is usually what's recommended. Some people post on a schedule certain times of the week. So this can be based on an algorithm that you've kind of figured out through going through your analytics, which I'll talk about later too. Maybe you found that when you post Mondays at 7 p.m., that's when you get better, listener following, downloads, things like that. But posting steady. And as I say that, you notice that I'm not steady with posting. So if you're like me and it's hard, one way to get steady posting done is, say today I got off work at 4 p.m., my main job, and then I logged onto here at about 4:22 p.m. I wrote it down, and I'm still talking, but I have until about 6 p.m. to record, and I have the energy to do it and the willpower, and I want to do it. So I'm recording tidbits, which are going to be shorter segments, and then what I can do once those are recorded and saved I use Anchor, so once they're recorded and saved in Anchor, I'm set, right? Because I have content already recorded. I'm not going to upload 50 episodes at once. I could, but another strategy is to space it out over time. Right? You can lengthen, I can schedule every Friday at this exact time that I'm recording to have these, if I record 10 episodes, have 10 episodes coming up to post on Fridays, the next consecutive 10 Fridays, I can schedule it that way. And it doesn't mean that, okay, now when I post everything after that, I'll have to schedule it for after that Friday, for after the 10th Friday. Now I'm on like the 11th week in. I mean, I can still post other days or same day that this is already scheduled to post, but at least I know that if I don't feel like posting, or if I'm too tired, or if I have a bunch of stuff recorded but I just don't want to post it yet, I can just take it and I can just post it. I can post things anywhere, new stuff, anytime I want. You can be super flexible about it, but then you can also go all the way into the depths of your analytics. So, I mean, you have a lot of flexibility with podcasting. The cool part about it is that it's pretty flexible on both ends. It's flexible on your end as a content creator because you can usually record when you feel like it. Some people do, I've noticed a lot of people do actually do interviews and things too. And so if you interview people, I mean, you're going to be kind of, at least you can be super flexible, but still, you'll need the time that they're available too, right? So sometimes it might not be super flexible. The more pieces you have involved, the more people you have involved, the flexibility can kind of decrease. It's super flexible for listeners and your audience. It's going to be super, super flexible. Like, if you're like me, you listen to podcasts in the car. You might listen to podcasts when you're like lounging around on the weekend, when you're waiting on hold, when you're kind of like, I've had times when I just listen to podcasts like whenever the heck, like they're so convenient. You don't have to use your eyes. And if you're using your eyes to do something else, you can kind of multitask. Like last week, I multitasked while I was cleaning. I was listening to Star Talk, and I was just cleaning. And I hate cleaning, but that kind of, I was like, well, let me just save this podcast for when I want to listen to it. I'm going to force myself to clean. I mean, that's maybe not the best of associations, but it kind of does drive me to do what I need to do, because I know I can listen in the background. And other than steady posting, you can incorporate some learning. So learning on the topic that you're speaking on. Becoming an expert. You don't have to be an absolute expert at things. You don't have to have a degree in things, but you can follow trends. You can study news related topics, not necessarily like what's on the news on TV, but like, say if I'm talking about podcasting and I have a podcast about how to podcast, right? There are those out there. And say if I have a podcast about how to podcast, I can easily make a podcast about learning how to podcast, and then kind of track my progress, and then look at the new details out and about that people are using, right? So if I were making a podcast about learning how to podcast, so that people who wanted to know how to do it were tuning into my podcast, listening to what I had to say, listen to my advice, tips, things like that, I would have to learn and know how to talk about it and what I'm doing. And like I do here, I use more of my personal experience. I talk about things that I've noticed have worked, or what other people have shown as steps and methods that they use that really works well. I don't talk about things I don't know. I mean, I'll mention if I do talk about something and I'm like, I really don't know about that, I'll say it. But usually what you guys are getting from me is my own personal perspectives on things and my own experience. And that's valuable to a lot of people, especially if they're learning. I heard this somewhere before, and you guys have probably heard it too, how they say, you always know more than somebody, right? So if there's something that you've done, then you've proven that this step I'm doing works, then if you know that that step works, then you have maybe a leg up over somebody else who's never tried that. So you can start by talking about whatever that step may be, right? Analyzing. So when we talk about podcasting, once you have quite a few episodes up, and loaded, you can start talking about the analyzing process. So, and like every podcast will, well, it depends which platform you use, but say for example, if you were using Anchor, you can look at the analytics. Google has analytics for websites. A lot of companies, a lot of platforms use analytics. And what that does is it tells you a breakdown of so much important information. Where's your audience from? What are their age ranges? What are their gender ranges? When you went and you put in all of these advertisements and pushed all of this traffic towards during like maybe like a 2-week period that you were like testing things, and then you saw all the spike in results. What were those results when you actually were on that part of the campaign versus when you were just doing your normal daily flow and not doing anything similar to that, right? It tells you details, and what you do with the details is you want to find things that you can replicate. Find what you can repeat, and things that are working, things that get you higher downloads, higher listener counts. If you notice, whenever I record on this topic, 0 people tune in. Or if you notice, whenever I record on this topic, I get like a whole variety of people, or only these people listen to this. It can take a long time, and it can be a little bit frustrating. The frustration can come from the length of time. A lot of times people give up. I've been almost routinely podcasting. I'd say I have a test site outside of this one that I use to, talk about the podcasting process. So whenever I do have a topic on podcasting, a lot of it's coming from some experiences that I've had with a different podcast. And say, for example, if you're talking about different types of topics, if you have a podcast about, fixing cars or something, you want to think about what it is that you have done to maybe have a side hustle fixing cars, or get traffic is kind of maybe a weird term to use, but get people engaged when it comes to that, to fixing cars. Get people engaged in you actually being in the process of fixing their car. Just knowing how to get people to listen to you is a whole game of its own. But I hope you guys enjoyed these tidbits. This is my first recording for Tidbits, you guys, so I'm hoping you guys enjoy it. This episode about how to podcast, or podcasting tips for Tidbits. Thanks for listening, guys.